A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on GTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Ramney Tertola Pier Park, NV Salon Spa Nail and Barbershop, the Wellness Center, Medical and Behavioral Health Clinics, Ticely Cross Deliciously Smooth Cider, HOV Medical, and Digicel. Sign up for Digicel Plus Home Light Bundles, faster internet, movies, and sports. This is The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this live edition as we continue to go into the aftermath of elections of 2023. Today in studios with me, and I can say timings, this morning in studio with me is Honorable Julian Fraser, RA. What the RE at the end of the name stands for?
Registered Architect.
Registered architect. I never knew. I've been using it all along, and always meant to find out what really RE stands for.
Yes,
Registered architect. Honorable Fraser, it's a pleasure having you here this morning.
It's a pleasure for me to be here as well. We have to stop this. I saw you 10 o'clock yesterday morning. I see you 10 o'clock
and you see
this
10
morning.
o'clock again today, right? Well, like you would have said off camera, you still have your story to tell, and the press conference that we would have had there yesterday was only a snippet of what you were able to say because of time constraints. So I'm thinking that today we are picking up where you left off and where you didn't get to say what you really wanted to say.
Exactly.
And so we're going to start off with the tone right into it. There is still a confusion, and still some clarity needed because persons, yes, willing to move on. It is what it is. The government is formed. We know who we have for the opposition. But some people are still asking for some clarity. Where did it really, really fall through? And to a greater extent, you are being blamed. You're being said to be the one who was insistent to the Virgin Islands Party and to the PVIM NDP grouping that you're settling nothing for less than the leadership, as was confirmed by the member of the Progressive Virgin Islands movement, now Honorable Stacey Mehta, who said the atmosphere in the room suggests that this is what you wanted.
Well, Kathy, I first want to say again thanks to the people of the 3rd District for electing me as their representative in the 5th House of Assembly. I have nothing but gratitude and admiration for you, the people of the 3rd. I came to you again for the 7th time, and I promised that we were going to come back to you as your representative, serve you with the dignity that I have done in the past and the consistency that I have done in the past. And you trust that I was to my word, and you can rest assured that just as I have been with you throughout the 4 years of my last term, I will be with you throughout these 4 years in this term. And I told you that I was not just a district candidate, I was an asset to the territory, and you believed me. And I think that I will show you that to be the case. Now, as far as the elections are concerned, of course, I was victorious in the district. I ran a campaign. Campaign was focused on defeating the Virgin Islands Party. I think we did that. The people went out and they voted in favor of the PVIM, NDP, and PU, and we had a majority. The objective was to form a coalition government. I always said that it was going to be a coalition government. Going into the election, I felt that way. Into the election, I always felt that way, and we came out that way. Now, after the elections, I was mindful of the count, and in order to know what the government might look like, you have to monitor the count. I monitored the count until it was finished. When the count was finished, I realized that we did indeed had all the makings of a coalition, because PVIM had 3, NDP had 3, and PU had 1. I then called my negotiating team together. We met at our headquarters, met to discuss strategy for formation of a government. While we were in that while we were strategizing, members of the Progressive Virgin Islands PVIM team came to my headquarters, and we had to entertain them because they were insistent that they weren't going away. We weren't finished what we were doing, so we were telling them that they should wait until later so that we can talk to them. They insisted that they're going to stay. And while we were talking to them, there was several calls coming in from the Virgin Islands Party to members of my negotiating team. Several calls.
None to you directly?
I would imagine they were calling me direct as well because I wasn't picking up. They were talking to the team members. And I have 2 phones, so sometimes calls go to one and I walk around with one sometime. Okay. But I'm sure they were calling me as well. And so we decided to tell the VIP to come, tell them to come to our headquarters. But that was before PVIM got to us. While the Virgin Islands Party was on their way to us, PVIM, I said, were downstairs knocking on the door, so we had to let them in. So we had to abort, tell the Virgin Islands Party to abort, don't come. So PVIM came to us and they talked. And I am being mindful of the fact that, yes, I told the public that I had a loose alliance with PVIM for the campaign purposes, and the objective was to defeat the Virgin Islands Party.
Campaign purposes. And
I
take note of that keenly.
Yeah.
For campaign purposes.
Campaign purposes. Mm-hmm. Our objective was to defeat the Virgin Islands Party, and I told them the strategy is focus on the Virgin Islands Party. In my case, I never focus on the candidate. I focus on the party itself, mm-hmm. because I know if you defeat the party, you defeat the candidate as well. And so I am in the room and we're talking, and one of the PVIM members said we came on the basis of the agreement that we had. So I said to him, let me be clear. And I had to do that many times throughout the campaign when people would meet me and say, congratulations, you've done the right thing, you joined the blue team. I would say to them, no, let me set you straight. I haven't joined the blue team. I have an alliance with the blue team. I am still Progressives United. So I said to the gentleman, the person in the room, I said, let me explain to you what took place.
Person or persons?
Well, one person raised this thing
okay.
about us, the agreement that we had.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he was under the impression that I was a part of PVIM.
Mm-hmm.
So they're 3 and I'm 1, so I make 4. I think that's what came to me. I said no. I said, let me explain to you what the agreement was. It was merely an alliance during the election to defeat the Virgin Islands Party. That was my position. And I always spoke about a coalition. Coalition doesn't mean I'm a part of you. Coalition means that I'm me, you, we get together. So I think in explaining that, they understood that Progressives United is not a part of any one of the other organizations. I'll be a part of a government formed by the 3 organizations. So despite all that, no matter what PVIM would have said to me in that room, couldn't have mattered because there's 3 of us has to meet. Mm-hmm. And the 3 people there's 3 of us going to meet. Not myself and the group from PVIM, myself and a group from NDP. The 3 leaders has to meet. That's how I see it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, whatever transpired in their thoughts as to what we're going to do and what we should do and all the rest of it, it's neither here nor there. Until the 3 leaders meet and agree, nothing can happen. I will speak to the leader of the PVIM and he'll go to his people and discuss it with them. If he comes back and says, well, it can't work, I can work, that's fine. Same thing with NDP. So we had those talks and they left. And in came the Virgin Islands Party. The leader of the Virgin Islands Party spoke and spoke and spoke. And when he was done, all I said to him was, you know, I have no problems working with the Virgin Islands Party. Despite all that went on, I know I have the background for the Virgin Islands Party. I've been with them, and I know what they're capable of. I said, I have no problems working with you on the condition that I am the one in charge. Simple. And no end, that's end of story. There's no reason for me to discuss the matter with you or any further. That's my position, and that's where I stand. And anyone who have a problem with that, I ask the question, why not? Why not me? Why somebody else and not me? Well, that's a question that they'll have to answer.
So you got no answer then?
No.
You didn't put it to them. You just made your statement.
I put it to them. Mm-hmm. And the leader, who was the premier, he said to me, that's a non-starter. Well, that was the end of the story. If it's a non-starter, I see, the way I saw it, and anybody who knows, it takes 7 people to form a government. You got 6, I'm the one. If you can form the government without me, fine. But I was not going to be in a government with the Virgin Islands Party as a minister. I can't see myself doing that for reasons that I don't trust them to do that. Mm-hmm. I do not. Now, fast forward, maybe not too fast. I think that we're looking at 1 o'clock maybe in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. So around 2:30 in the morning, I got a call from the leader of the PVIM, and he asked me, so what did the VIP offer you? He said because they were there with him after they left with me. I said, they didn't offer me anything. I just told them straight up what I would do, what I'm capable of doing, what I would do. I told them plain out, straight and simple, that the only way I work with you is if I'm the leader. And I conditioned it by saying that couldn't take place until and unless we have exhausted, that meaning PU, PVIM, and NDP had exhaused every attempt to form a government, because that was my first call. My first call was to PVIM and NDP. Mm-hmm. That was my first call, no matter what. So as you can see, that the first call has not been exhausted because I haven't met with the NDP as yet. So in the morning now, when I got up, I said to myself, this thing has to end. It has to end today. And if it doesn't end today, then there's no hope for us. So I called the leader of the NDP, and I told him that we need to meet. He agreed. He had other engagements. His first free time was 11:30. We met at 11:30. I didn't wait for him. I called him. So I offered to him my solution to the problem.
Which was?
Going forward. I offered him a solution to the problem.
Can you share what the solution was?
Which to him was amicable. I then, while I was speaking to him,
you're not going to give me what was that offer?
No.
Okay.
While we were in the meeting, I got a message, a text. I said to him, brother, you sitting here with me and we're talking about forming a government, and somebody is sending me a message telling me that one of your members is not currently with the VIP. He said to me, that's impossible, it can't happen. No, that's not true, because could you imagine what that would do to the legacy of our founder, the former premier? Could you imagine what that would do? So I just sent a message back to the person and said, dismiss, dismiss. Then after he left, the meeting now takes place with the leader of PVIM. PVIM and I having the meeting. We have the meeting. PVIM left. I offered the same proposition to PVIM.
Which you're not going to tell us.
The proposition was that, and after he got it, he said he'll take it back to his people. At first, he was skeptical and started saying he don't know how that's going to work. And I said, simple.
So that was well, that not going to work means that
No. He didn't say that's not going to work. He said he doesn't know how it's going to work.
he doesn't know how it's going to work, which would have meant it was a similar proposal that you would have made, similar to the response that you would have given to the Virgin Islands.
No. It was
wasn't-
totally different. No.
Okay,
Totally
okay,
different.
okay.
This one was totally different.
Okay.
And I'll explain to you. This one was totally different. He said he doesn't see how it's going to work. I explained to him. He said, well, he take it back to his people. Before he got back to his people, it was a little convolution because his transportation wasn't there when he went outside, so I had to take him to a certain place to meet his transportation. And before I got back to my office and before he got to where he was going, he called me and said to me, this whole thing is useless because what's her name gone and joined with the Virgin Islands Party, so there's no need for us to have a further meeting. Because we were supposed to have a further meeting between the three leaders, PU, PVIM, and NDP at 3 o'clock. So he said that there's no need for this meeting because, this thing is gone. I said, what craziness am I hearing? This can't be real. It can't be real. How could you have a team and not know what we're dealing with? Because this could have happened at the 11th hour, even after we had agreed and sat down and said we're going forward. This person could have walked away. I thought that they had everybody under their control, but evidently it wasn't working that way. It didn't work that way.
So let's do a little retracting. All along the campaign, from the time of the announcement, even before the announcement of the date for the general election, you, for one, kept saying, and others followed, and they were in agreement with this, that, listen, this is definitely going to be a coalition government, and you keep reiterating it. But, Honorable Fraser, now, we are oftentimes being blamed for being reactive and not proactive. Considering that fact, and it came to me this morning while I was, preparing conditioning my mind to talk with you. If you would look back at, let's say, basketball leagues and championships and stuff, there is always on the press waiting for that machine to go down on the championship jersey the moment you win. If you do not win, it goes aside. They get a percentage of the order, and a refund is done. Why didn't you, the three of you, see it necessary to employ a proactive move? Listen, let's go here. This is plan. This is what we see, and we're so sure that it's going to happen. Why not lay down that, okay, if it happens, this is the direction we're going to go. So at the clock of it, before cock start crowing, you guys would have been the first as a group on the stairs of the governor.
Listen, Kathy, I don't think you can anticipate certain things in life. How could you possibly anticipate that John is going to desert you after John has been a loyal soldier, a quote unquote loyal soldier of yours? You don't
said
know.
Loyal soldier of yours. I want to bring this to you. Remember that soldier that we're talking about, and here in this case is Honorable Lorna G. Smith, started out her campaign as an independent person, still undecided whether she's going to go with X, Y, or Z party. As I understand it, there was not like a membership of, but was asked to campaign along with. So somewhere along the line, you would have maybe you didn't see it, but others did.
Well, at whose feet do you lay that blame? I can't take responsibility for that because
I'm just asking about a proactive move.
I take the word of the leader of each group that they have some form of control over other people. I think another thing too is a lot of people have a total misconception of what a coalition government is. Coalition is us. It's not you and the rest of us. Like one person wants to be the leader and all of us are going to be the followers. We're going to rule this country, run this government together. The two of us run the government together. Kathy, there's a decision on the table to be made. We're going to make it. And we're going to make it amicable between us. I have dubbed our system before the COI. I dubbed it before them. I dubbed it before the governor and the Minister for the Overseas Territory as a legal dictatorship. The premier and the chief minister of this country is a dictator, but it's legal because the Constitution bestowed that power upon him. He comes in, and I know because I sit in cabinet several times. He comes in, and this is it. And that's what it's going to be. You have something going forward as a minister. He said, put that aside, you have to put it aside. And I was determined that the views that I have expressed on the campaign trail, the opinions that I have expressed on the campaign trail, and the way I see this country needs to go was going to be heard, just as well as what my colleague leader of the NDP was. They will be heard. And also the leader of the PVIM will be heard, not one.
But I listened to you carefully. If you notice, I paused from asking questions too much because I wanted to be a keen listener, and I was hearing some things from the get-go. One of the things that I would have heard from you, now you're saying that the premier position is one of a dictatorship, what he says go. But what I also heard from you, that this can be prevented by the committees of the House of Assembly being in action. There are several committees and several arms of the legislature that is in place by law but is not active, which gives the premier the power and the leeway to do all he wants to do. So it tells me that it's not really a dictatorship, and you can correct me if I am reading it incorrectly. It is that you guys who would have sat there from government to government failed to ensure that those wheels are turning, to ensure that whatever decisions are made are collective and in agreement with the body.
Okay, let me point out the difference to you. Mm-hmm. The House of Assembly is there to hold the government accountable. Mm-hmm. Now, what I'm talking about, the legal dictatorship, is the government being the executive. Mm-hmm. That's the legal, where he has the legal dictatorship powers. Mm-hmm. When it goes, when it's the stuff that we do inside the government, the executive, when it goes to the cabinet, I mean the House of Assembly, that's where that part with the committees I'm talking about, that's where that comes in. But there are so many things that are done on the executive level that does not require House of Assembly approval or any input, that by the time it gets, by the time all that stuff is done, his damage is already done. And I was determined that this should not continue. We have a coalition government, and it was a perfect time for us to roll back a lot of the stuff that's going. We have an incinerator that hasn't worked for 2 years. We have a sewage treatment plant that hasn't functioned for 7 years. We have a system that is broken and can't be fixed, it seems, and no one has a will to do it. I don't think that the leader of the NDP will stand for that, because I heard him. We sit in the House for 4 years. We have to get these things moving, but the will is not there. And I don't think that the member for the PVIM will stand for that either. But one alone, it could continue with one alone. And I was determined that that's not what I bargained. I didn't bargain for that. We are going to run this country, whether it's you running it between 2023 and 2025, and the other one running from next and all that kind of stuff. Okay. But any decision that is going to be made, even though you are running it from 23 to 24, even though you are the head chief premier, the three of us will get together and make those decisions. Not you go and make decision and come and tell me, you don't even tell me. It just happened.
So that was the proposal.
I didn't say. I'm just letting you know.
I'm feeling you out, because you're not coming out directly, so I'm feeling you out.
It's a coalition government. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When somebody blames PU for something that's taking place in the country, PU can't say anything. Yes, I'm aware, it was a part of the decision and all that stuff. If you're going to take up and grant some developer the rights to do some major development in the territory, that's all done by the premier. Not him and his ministers. When you're going to go and grant somebody this stuff, and somebody going to meet me on the street and say, your government this and your government that, no. We need an airport in this territory that can accommodate direct flights to the United States. For the longest time, people have been talking about it, and I don't get the impression that it's going to happen because the initiative is not there.
But then you are saying now that we have a very strong opposition, and we're going to hold the governor, the premier, and his team to the fire to get it done. But yet you're saying to me that the premier still just have the thing. How are you going to be able to effectively, now that you are just 6 on the one side and considering yourself strong? How? Explain it to me.
Only by public pressure. we have to go through the public now to get it done. If in his conscience he feel that he's betraying the public because we brought it to the public, then he will turn around. But he doesn't have to.
Okay.
But I'm saying that with the coalition government, you wouldn't get to that point. We have a $426 million loan guarantee sitting there waiting for us to access it. We haven't touched it, and the country is going to the dogs.
But you think it should be we should go in that direction in the current construct of the agreement, that with the demands that the United Kingdom is asking?
What are the demands?
Well, you guys have been saying that.
No, not you guys. You guys. They must have been saying it.
So whatever it is, I don't have that paper in front of me, but
let me
based
tell
on
you.
what the House has been pushing.
It's a farce. It's not true. It's not true. They're telling you that if they access that money, they're going to breach the borrowing guidelines. Borrowing guidelines mean that you could only borrow X amount of dollars based on the revenue you're pulling in or based on your debt, your current debt. And and it used to be your reserve funds as well. But the reserve has now changed from just a single account to all the monies that the government has, which is what it used to be. So they're saying it's going to breach. Sitting down there, if I access this money, it's going to breach the borrowing guidelines. But Kathy, you're the one who designed the borrowing guidelines. You're the one who monitor it. You're the one who tells me, well, listen, you can't do it because of so and so. But at the same time, you're giving me access to a loan. Don't you see something wrong with that picture? So I think that they just deliberately decided that they're not going to access it. How come the NDP before them didn't have a problem with it? They just came in and decided that they have a problem with it.
I think the narrative that the NDP before them was running with is that we're going to put the country back into a debt that it would take eons before they can.
Who was saying that? The public? The public was saying that?
I think that came from the House itself as well.
The NDP wouldn't have said that about themselves. They're the ones who arranged for this facilitation.
Oh, it's the VIP when they came in 2019.
When they came in 2019, they started that nonsense.
They were saying that.
Which only they alone bought. We have to do it. They were just able to rush off a school that they built there to take the kids off the street for several years, going to half their school and all the rest of it. We need to build a society. We have to rebuild it. There's no West End Ferry Terminal.
That has been too long.
Or roads.
That has been too long, and people have been really, really complaining. And it's one thing to sit here and see or listen to legislators saying, "Oh, we need to get this going." But when you get on the ground, you happen to be sometime among people who commute from different parts of the world here, and they are repeat visitors to this territory. To hear their lament on the absence of that ferry terminal in West End is something to hear.
Yeah, really. I don't be in position to hear those things that you hear because you look in news.
No, I have a life other than the news, please.
I make news, you look for it. But I would imagine it's disheartening. You know, you could run, if you run from St. Thomas to Tortola and you disembark in West End, the difference it makes between disembarking in West End and Rotown, it's the convenience is far, there's no comparison. But these are things that we need to do. We need to move forward. And we're not moving forward because we are depending on the consolidated funds. And even to the consolidated funds, we haven't done anything to generate any new revenue. People keep talking about diversify. And it's a good word because it's catchy. And people believe every time they hear it that somebody's going to do something about it. I keep saying that the European Union has dropped a gift in our laps, and nobody has been able to capitalize on that gift. They came up with this concept that every company registered in the country must have some economic value in the territory. We have not been able to find a way for them to do that.
But can we still know that because of Brexit, can we still tap into that the EU?
No, that's not. This is not EU money. This is
a framework that they would have said.
This is the company. Every company that's registered in here must have some value in the territory. In other words, you got to have an office.
Oh,
necessarily.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Necessarily.
Physical presence.
Yes, whether it's an office, whether it's a person, or you have some kind of business being conducted in the territory. And this is not something that we impose. This is not our business. This is not ours. It's the European Union. So if we go to those companies and say, listen, you know, the law is of such, and so if you want to continue being registered in the territory, you got to have economic substance in the territory. And here's what we propose to be economic substance. And right now we talk about having 450,000 to 500,000 companies registered. Let's stick with 450,000 now, 50,000. Let's say after we have started implementing this European Union economic substance thing, we lose 50,000. So we're down to 400,000. That's a huge, huge sum. Maybe those 50,000 didn't need to be here in the first place. Whatever the case is, I'm just saying. So the plan
But
that
the market share of that 50,000 might be so much that it amounts for like a 100 of them.
I didn't get that.
So the value of that 50 that may say, look, we're not going to have a physical office. Maybe
Yeah.
the value of 100 come together that are going to say that I'm going to do this. So it's the value of it.
The value of it will be, it would pan out because you got 400,000 who decide that they would have some kind of economic substance. But I haven't determined what economic substance is. No one has determined what economic substance is. The whole idea is that for every $100 of fees you impose on one of those companies, of a 400,000 company, you're looking at raising $40 million for every $100, right? But I'm not saying in what form this fee.
Yeah.
But
Something
I have
to look at.
I have in my mind what it would be. I have the picture drawn already. What this whole thing is going to be to capitalize on the economic substance thing, to raise a whole lot of money for the territory that would bring no burden on the companies themselves whatsoever, but a huge ton of benefits to the territory. So I'm saying that the lack of that vision is causing this territory to lose a substantial amount of money. Some of those companies just farm to conduct one single transaction. And after that transaction is conducted, the transaction could be worth billions. Once that transaction is conducted, they liquidate the company. So that's how fast they come and that's how fast they go.
Okay.
So you have to, if you understand the business, you can see how we can capitalize on it. We have Ellis Thomas Downs grandstand that's been knocked down by Hurricane Irma. That's a major tourism product. Major tourism product.
You use the reference of being knocked down by the hurricanes, but you got an even bigger knockdown to talk about because we moved past that. Anybody could say, okay, given this time we would have been able to put that back in place, but you have a bigger problem that has not yet come to the public as being resolved.
Which is
the issue with the land.
Okay, hold that thought. Make sure we exhaust that thought. So this is a major tourism product. If you ever seen the Virgin Islands in full bloom, in action, when there's a horse race, people come to Tortola ostensibly sometimes to horse race. Some of them don't even go near the track, but they came to Tortola because of horse racing.
Yeah.
They rent a vehicle. They're all over the island driving. They go to visit their family. Some of them go there to their family. They eat so much and drink so much they can't leave till the time for the boat to go, so they miss the race. But who cares? I was Tortola. I went to horse race. Okay, how did the races go? Boy, to tell you the truth, I can't tell you because this, that.
Yeah.
But the place is bustling. And if we put on more of those races, if we put the races on more frequently, this same thing will continue happening. So it's a major tourism product. And we allow it to just sit there, and we have one individual who put his heart, his blood, and his money into it.
Lesmore Smith?
Exactly. One individual who keeps that thing going. I don't know how he does it, but he does. And the government should be ashamed. Now, getting back to this issue, who's to blame? The government. The government is to blame for that facility not being open to the public. Here's what happened. The government has a lease with the people. The lease is the agreement in the lease is to have it reviewed every 5 years. To have it reviewed every 5 years, so that when the time comes, when it expires, we would have already known exactly what to sign on to. 10 years have passed and no review. The owners of the land called for a review.
10 years would have passed, no review. That mean it would have been during the NDP administration period.
No.
No?
During this administration. The 10-year period, yes, yes.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be reviewed every 5 years.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And so they asked for a review. The government agreed to a review. The people goes to the meeting. They're sitting in a room and waiting, sitting in a room and waiting. Now this is my understanding. I wasn't there. This is my understanding from the owners. The door opens, and according to them, the AG, whether it's the AG themselves or the AG's agent, open the door and says, as far as we are concerned, there's no agreement. There's no contract. Why?
The 10 years is 5 years past.
No, that's not the reason. The reason was that the company under which the lease was signed, the government signed a lease with a company. That company has been struck from the record, which is a simple thing. All you have to do is go back and pay whatever dues and get it going. So there's no meeting. Meeting just never happened.
Yeah.
So the owners of the land said to the government, well, if there's no lease, then there can be no use of the facility. Why? Because the lease indemnified, within the lease they were indemnified from any form of liability. So if you remove that indemnity from the liability and you go on a racetrack with your horse and something happens, you can sue the owners of the land. Okay. The owners of the land didn't stop there. They contacted the premier, whether he answered the phone at his office, and they told him, look, we understand the importance of the land to the track and the people of the territory. If you wish, you can give us a letter assuming all the responsibilities for any liability that take place, and you can use the thing. No answer. They contact him again, they got him. Same offer, still no answer. So it's not the people, it's the government. If that track was located somewhere else, maybe they would have done it. But I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that it's done by me. But this facility is too important to the territory. The current premier is a young person, a very young person. That facility has been in operation for years, a lot of years, before he was born. It means a lot, not just to the people of the 3rd District, but a lot to the territory.
And tourists.
And the United States Virgin Islands as well. So you don't just shut something down because you can shut it down. But I understand, and you should understand too, because if you could have a sewage treatment plant not functioning for 6 years, dumping raw sewage in the ocean, right outside our borders, and floating down to a major tourism attraction as well, Nanny Key, and do nothing, and you can have an incinerator that has been functioning for 2 years, and you're burning toxins in the air, people in St. John complaining, people in Caribbean complaining, and you do nothing. What's a racetrack? Just leave it there, shut it down.
Well, and I think these are some of the things that, the people would expect. Yes, we have after a very long time, such a strong, such a big opposition.
It's the strongest one ever.
Yeah, and with the years of experience that sits over there combined with a few newbies. One, yes, Stacey Ritter.
He might be big, but he's only one.
Yes.
Not a few.
Well, like you said, it's holding them responsibility, and that means pulling the general public along with you in your advocacy. But we want to go back to some other major issues that seems to be on the front burner for you guys as the opposition and for the general public. Well, the government has said that this is something they want to tackle as well as one of the first things, and that is what is dubbed the Greedy Bill. We say the Greedy Bill so often that we even forget the correct name.
What's the name of it? You mean the pension?
The legislators' pension.
I know what you're talking about.
Scheme. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about it?
So, in terms of priority, the big thing on the campaign trail, I don't remember hearing you say it in particular, but the big thing on the campaign trail was to have a section of it repealed. For you, is what does repeal mean, and how will this go? Well, we need to understand from your perspective, because we respect you as the most senior person in the House of Assembly, and you have been showing that you have the knowledge base.
Well, repeal normally means that the law no longer exists. The law no longer exists. For the public, I think what they're thinking is that whatever the law stood for in the past, that too no longer exists. So that would make it retroactive, and you cannot make a law retroactive. So if they repeal it, it's going forward. What's in that piece of legislation does no longer apply. So in my view, it just simply needs to be amended. Take out the parts that you have a problem with and leave the legislation. But if it suits the public, if the public feels better for us to repeal it, of course, okay, let's repeal it. But the parts of the legislation that are still applicable, and you'll have to make a new law for that.
So let's use you as an example. If this is to be repealed, someone like you're not yet retired from the House.
Right.
Right? You're going on done how much years? There are persons who would have recently retired, and those that would have retired times past.
Right.
How would it affect you, if at all, when you reaches retirement?
That would probably become a legal matter. Like I just told you about the retroactive stuff and all the rest of it, that's a legal matter that is not in my head right now. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not in the legal matter. I make laws. I make laws. I don't litigate.
And some persons are saying, like, okay, so persons who are eligible for it, let's say use for instance Honorable Myron V. Wall, when he was out of the House of Assembly at the time this was made, which entitled him to his benefits from the entire package, because he would have served the amount of terms. I think it was 2 terms.
Two
right?
terms, yeah.
Two terms. And probably would have already gotten his money. I don't know. I can't say for sure.
Yeah, he has already been vested in the retirement program. He's already on pension.
He's on pension, but returning now into the House of Assembly. How does that happen?
Well, there's a facility already built in for that. When you return, what they do to you when you return, because several members have returned already before that.
So explain to us, so we get a better picture.
I think his pension will be suspended. They will no longer pay him pension. He start collecting a salary. Because remember, you would have gotten a lump sum based on the pension, so that would be suspended. And when he retires again, whenever that is, then they'll pick up from where he left off.
And so those past years are now added.
The past years, in what sense?
So he retired after 2 terms.
Yes.
And he returned in this season.
So
at the end of his retirement, those 2 terms are now added to this season that he.
No. There's nothing to add. All he would do is pick up on his pension. Pick up receiving pension.
Okay.
There's no more compensation to be gotten.
Okay.
You've already gotten that. You retired. You got it. Stop paying pension. You start getting a salary. When you retire the next time around, you just pick up on your pension.
Okay. So in your mind, a repeal makes no sense?
No, I'm not saying make no sense. If the public feels comfortable with the word repeal and the government and the legislature repeals it, then do it.
You see it happening?
Repeal? I have no doubt that the guys who are talking about it will do it. You got the premier talking about it. You got the leader of the PVIM talking about it. I think the leader of NDP talking about it.
Will you support it?
I have no feeling either way. I know what it is, so I will support it. I have no feeling either way. Is the public happy?
You reference referenced during the press conference yesterday vote of no confidence.
Oh yes.
In the government. Let's go there.
I've moved a vote of no confidence against the NDP. I think it was between 2008 2011 and 2015, I moved a motion of no confidence against the NDP. What the media, all media, has to see the procedures of democracy for what they really are. I move a motion of no confidence, and of course, I can't win. But the point is not to win always. It's not to win. Sometimes
to make a point.
Sometimes you go in there knowing you're going to win because somebody in the government side is going to vote for it.
With you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's what you bring out with this motion of no confidence is important. That's what's important. To point out to the public that the government is faltering, the government is lax, the government is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And that's what the media is supposed to concentrate on. Not that I got a shellacking because I lost. Because I lost.
Shellacking.
Yeah, because I lost 12-1 or something, some nonsense like that. That's not the point. The point is that the media is supposed to be always critical of an administration. If I find the media supporting an administration, I'm saying that the media is in bed with the government. And that's never a good thing to say about the media. The media is supposed to be helping bring the views, bring the
media is to be balanced, both sides.
Balance, yes. So that means that we always lose because we have the minority.
No, it's your side and the government side.
Let's get back to the
yes.
motion of
no
confidence.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think we have the talent in the opposition to mount some substantial motions against the government, motions of no confidence against the government. Sometimes what these motions do is it makes the government more cautious of doing certain things that everybody knows is a little shady. So they'll be more cautious in moving next time. So I think that's what we ought to do. We ought to do a lot of those things, but not a lot of motion of no confidence. We must have at least one, maybe two.
So saying at this beginning stage that there must be one or at least two says that you already foresee a number of things that are not going to be right?
Absolutely.
You have your eyes on any particular?
No.
You've been in the House for however long. And like I heard from the press conference there yesterday, some things you don't know until you get here. I think it was Honorable Marlon Penn who said it's until you got into the cabinet then you understand and you saw certain things that really should not be happening or that are not right. But you've been there.
Mm-hmm. That happens. And the public never know about it. You all now are getting cabinet decisions are being published regularly and
excerpts of cabinet decisions, I would dare say.
Okay. And even that, as you just mentioned, excerpts, after a while, when you look at it, you see nothing, and you know something happened. So that's where the excerpts come in. So it's a means of appeasing you, making you feel comfortable. But he would know because he sits in cabinet and he see exactly what takes place and how it takes place. That's why he's saying now what he's saying. But I foresee if people like Mr. Maida, Mitch, those young guys put the time in, they had put a lot of time in. If they put the time in and they advocate on the floor, I see an opposition that's going to be very, very viable. I don't have to question Skelton.
Nor
Marlon.
Nor
I said yesterday, I see a guy like Myron who can hold a debate for 2 hours. So if we have to move to filibustering, we can do it. As long as we don't have a speaker who is overly aggressive and start thinking in terms of time limits and all that kind of stuff. And even then, at that point, you're going to have to start calling out the speaker.
You think we'll have Honorable Corinne return?
I'm not sure. Well, since they were the ones who brought her before, they might just do that. She was a quite formidable, charming young lady.
It shows also something that we would have seen as a result of the vote in the appetite for young people to be among the legislative house. We saw them bring back Honorable De Castro, who was in 2019 the highest voter, like Stacy is now. Stacy, a very young man. Mitch, you could still consider him relatively, a young man. There seemed to be an appetite.
What are we? What are we going to do with youth? What are we going to do with youth?
Teach them like launch them.
I wonder if I was so exuberant as they are today. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I hope that they extend this exuberance and interest into, don't just stop here. Just keep going, because this country has a lot to do. It has a lot to be desired. I mean, this whole talk about self-determination. That's why I like the premier for that reason. He is the one guy I'll go to battle with when it comes to defending this country against the UK. The premier.
And you constantly said that from time in ages. You kept saying that.
No, it's the first time I came across a member of the House of Assembly who really sees things this way, and he really means it. I believe he means it, and that's the one guy I'll go to battle with when it comes to that.
Okay, we're coming down to the bottom of our hour. We just have about like 6 minutes more to go, but I want to feel from you, in your mind, the priorities of this government, what it should be the moment you guys are officially sworn in.
Kathy, all people are talking about what is the government going to do about the cost of living? What's the government going to do about inflation? Well, when you start, all people has to be feeling the pinch, and I would know more than you do why they're feeling the pinch. When you take away the assistance grants for legislators, we're talking about $1.7 million within the 9 districts that was going directly to individuals, and those individuals, for the largest part, were people like the seniors and the others who are less fortunate. No matter, you hear the talk out there about giving money for votes and all that kind of stuff. Well, okay, so we didn't have the money for the votes.
But you still, the population still voted.
Take a guy like myself, for instance. You want to claim that I was using it all these years for votes? Okay, so I didn't have it this time. And what happened? So you can see it's a farce. It's a farce. These people relied on this kind of money for, as small as it was still a big thing for them. Then you have the petty contracts. We were pumping over $2.5 million in petty contracts on the district level alone. The allocation, my district vote for projects, and everybody else district vote for projects was in the neighborhood of $2.5 million. Petty contracts, that's exhausted, evaporated. These are monies that went into the communities. You take that away. So what do you expect? What is cost of living? The cost of living just means that your salary is no longer adequate to pay for your expenditures. If we had these monies flowing in the community...
You said no longer is not adequate because it's been that way for quite some time.
Okay. So then what we need to do? We need to inject capital into the economy, which would be a fiscal policy of the government. How do you do that? It's the same for $426 million I'm talking about, accessing that so that we can pump that money into our economy. So once we start doing those kind of things, these things will take care of themselves. They would fall in line. The high cost of living, you'll be able, because you got monies coming in, you'll be able to pay your expenditures and all the rest of it. But in the absence of that, I don't see anything happening. Where is the government going to get money from to pump into the economy?
Well, we look forward to the brilliant minds that are in government, and we hope also, because there are groupings who say, listen, we talk to our government, we talk to our legislators time and time again, we give them ideas, we are on the ground, we are businessmen, we tell you that go in this direction, and you keep failing to listen, to implement the advice that they give you. I hope in this go around that you guys together as an opposition and the government side see it fit to say, hey, XYZ group, let's try the strategy that you have been putting towards. I have to say, we have to end it here. We're on the hour. 30 seconds to the people of the territory.
Well, again, I continue to say thanks for what you have done to elect 13 members to the Fifth House of Assembly. I promise you that I will do my part, encouraging the other members, the other 12 members, to live right and do right by you, the people who have elected us. I will make sure that I do it for myself first and the other 12 after. And I have no doubt that this House of Assembly is going to be the best that you've seen since we have a legislature back 73 years ago.
Awesome. So thank you so much, and I love the way we were able to graduate from the bickering issue of who did what into substance as to where we can go, and that was the intent and deliberate. Thank you so much, Honorable Fraser, for your time, and thank you for tuning in for this a very special edition of The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards.
We know that where you choose to bank matters, and it is your vote on what your funds do in strengthening our community. As your official Bank of Paradise, we invest and support the lifeblood of our economy by helping in the realization of personal goals for homeownership, education, and entrepreneurial visions, which support small businesses. We make it our place to connect with persons and worthy causes, and we have been doing so for more than 30 years. Where your money goes and what your dollars empower are your choice. And we thank you for choosing us, a bank that gives where it matters the most, for you, for our community, and a happier tomorrow. The National Bank of the Virgin Islands.
Opiate. Hi, I'm Cowboy, and I'm running for president of Stake. Thank you. And I will meet your needs. Some bathrooms are so expensive to build, they come with security. But at Staycation Butchers, our meats are affordable. People always ask me, Cowboy, where does your salmon come from? Well, our salmon comes from the water. A vote for Cowboy is a vote for quality, integrity, and consistency. So come into Staycation Butchers and cast your vote for me, your next president of Steak. Alexandra Durant approves this message.
No, I don't.
Everyone looks to the future, but no one truly knows what the future holds.
The number of people under the age of 20 with type 2 diabetes could increase by 49% by 2050.
Let it be known that we all have a 30% chance of developing hypertension.
Globally, more than 300 million people of all ages suffer from depression.
More than 60,000 young adults aged 20 to 39 are diagnosed with cancer each year.
Obesity leads to problems such as stroke, heart disease, and kidney failure.
No matter your race, age, or color, we are all at risk.
These diseases can be managed or prevented if caught early.
But with the right medicine and the right doctors to keep us on a path to live a robust and healthy life,
we will live well.